Hello! This will be a demonstration of Proposition 32 from Book 9 of Euclid's Elements, which says that every number which is continuously doubled from the dyad is even times even only. A few things to talk about in this enunciation. First, we want to ask what's a dyad. Well, a dyad is simply the number 2. That's it. This parallels words like triad, which is a word for 3, and monad, which is another word for 1 or the unit. In fact, some translations of the elements do not say unit, but rather say monad. We also want to ask, secondly, what is an even times even number? Well, an even times even number is a number that you can get by multiplying two even numbers by each other. For example, the number 12, we would say, is an even times even number, for it is equal to the product of the even number 2 multiplied by the even number 6. Having gone over that, let's get into our given. We're given three numbers, B, C, and D, which are produced by continual doubling from the dyad A. So if A is 2, we double it to get B, we double B to get C, and we double C to get D, and we just go on like that. And it's just obvious from this fact that because we continually double these numbers from the dyad A, that the dyad A is to B just as B is to C, just as C is to D. So they form a continued proportion. What we want to prove from this is that the following numbers, B, C, and D, are even times even only. So not only can you get them as the product of two even numbers, but this is the only way to get them. You cannot get the numbers B, C, and D by multiplying an even number by an odd number, nor an odd number by another odd number. Now, because the dyad is obviously twice the unit, we can actually go back from this proportion and start it instead at the unit and start doubling from it. So we start at the unit, then we double it to get the dyad A, we double A to get B, we double B to get C, and we double C to get D. So this is actually a continued proportion which begins not just from the dyad, but also from the unit. Now, because the dyad A is prime, the number 2 is obviously a prime number, because it's only measured by 1 and itself, because there's no numbers between 1 and 2, so it's obviously prime. And because it's prime, we know from Proposition 9.13 that the greatest number is only measured by the numbers before it in the continued proportion. So that because the unit is to A just as A is to B, just as B is to C, just as C is to D, and the number first from the unit, which is the dyad A, is prime, then this final number D is only measured by the dyad A and by the numbers B and C. And because it is only measured by these numbers, and these three numbers, A, B, and C, are obviously even, then it follows that D is even times even only. For if it was even times odd, or even odd times odd, it would be measured by some odd number. But we have just shown that it is only measured by a set of even numbers. So D is accordingly even times even only. Now, similarly, we can prove that B and C are also even times even only. This would simply follow from 9.13 again. So having proven that B, C, and D are even times even only, we're therefore done with the proposition because this is what we set out to prove. So, therefore, etc., Q, E, D. The next couple of propositions will include several references to what I've called up until now the powers of 2. Because in this proposition, we start with the dyad 2. We get the next number B by doubling it. So the next number will be 4. And then we get the next number 8, and then we would get the next number 16, and we can actually go back to the unit like this. And these are the powers of 2, what I've been calling the powers of 2. Because you can represent all of these numbers as 2 to some exponent. So 1 is obviously 2 to the 0. 2 is also obviously 2 to the 1. 4 is 2 squared, or 2 to the 2. 8 is 2 cubed, or 2 to the 3. And 16 is 2 to the 4th. So this proposition is telling us that numbers such as 4, 6, or not 6, 4, 8, 16, 32, and all the other powers of 2 are even times even only, that you can only get them as the product of even numbers. Of course, what falls out from this is that none of these numbers are measured by odd numbers because they're only measured by even numbers, as we had shown with proposition 9.13. That's all I've got to say about this proposition. I look forward to getting into the powers of 2 more in the ensuing propositions. With that said, I'll end the video here and move on to proposition 9.33.